Hi, my name's Soshi, also known as Raw Fish, also known as Soshimozi. I'm the guy who made the Jesse Gaines class consciousness video. I made this video years ago when I was in high school. Back then I actually used to make videos kind of regularly. This is actually my second channel. My main channel is where I primarily made videos, normally about random stuff, random topics that were swimming around in my mind. At the time I decided to make a second channel where I would make memes and stuff. This is that channel. I haven't made videos for either of my channels in years. I never actively decided to stop making content one day. I just kind of slowly lost interest, life got in the way, I ran out of ideas. Then one day this meme I made like 5 years ago starts blowing up out of nowhere. Currently it sits at 1.2 million views. I've never gotten that many views on a video before. Again, this is my second channel. Since the video started blowing up, the number of subscribers I have on this channel is now double the number of subscribers I had on my main channel. That basically makes this my main channel now. I don't know if the video started blowing up because of YouTube's algorithm changes, or because more people now are more interested in socialism, or at least watching videos about socialism. Interest in socialism now is only growing after recent political events have made capitalism feel less and less like an actually viable economic system. Since this is my first time making a video in years, and I have a lot of new subscribers, I figure I might as well reintroduce myself. Hi, my name is Soshi, I'm on the left, and I'm excited to start making videos again. So basically one thing I started to notice when the video started to blow up were the discussions that were starting to take place in the comments. When I first uploaded the video there wasn't that much discussion. A couple jokes here and there, a couple memes, but that was it. Once the video started to gain traction, I immediately started to notice comments that were more critical. So basically, let me start by recapping the video. In the video, Jesse and Walt are making meth. Jesse notices that each week, he and Walt both make $96 million worth of meth, yet they are only paid $3 million for it, $1.5 million each. Jesse says that he feels this distribution is unfair, and Walt tells him to just suck it up. In response, Jesse becomes a communist. A lot of people fled to the comments to say that Jesse is wrong because Gus actually does earn the other $93 million. After all, without Gus, they couldn't make $96 million worth of meth in the first place, and they wouldn't be able to sell it that fast either. Gus built a distribution network, he built the lab, he sources the ingredients. He takes care of everything so Walt and Jesse can just focus on cooking. Without Gus, there is no $96 million. Therefore, he is entitled to the majority of the surplus, the majority of the revenue that is being made. That's the claim that's being made here. But here's the thing, Gus doesn't do any of these things. His workers do. And here's the other thing. Gus isn't getting the other $93 million either. To help explain, let me try and recap what has happened in the show so far. Basically, this scene is from Season 3, Episode 9, Kafka-esque. At this point in the show, Jesse has basically just started working at the laundry. He hasn't even met Gus yet. If you'll recall, Walt got Jesse to replace his former lab partner Gale in order to keep Jesse from suing Hank after Hank beat up Jesse. Jesse hasn't met Gus yet. All he knows is this is a lab that's underneath a laundry. He and Walt use the lab to make $96 million worth of meth, then they give it to some mystery man who lets the two of them keep $3 million. In Jesse's view, he feels that this mystery man is robbing him and Walt of their time and money. To which Walt replies, "Just suck it up." And in response, Jesse becomes a communist. It isn't until later on in the show when Jesse meets Gus and Mike, especially Mike, that he starts to get a better idea of how this operation works and how many people are involved. There are a lot of workers involved in this operation, and without them, Walt and Jesse wouldn't be able to just focus on cooking meth, and they wouldn't be able to distribute it that quickly either. Without those other workers, there is no $96 million. They're all entitled to their fair share of the pie. Gus isn't keeping the other $93 million. He's using it to pay his workers. This is something that Jesse is clearly missing in this scene. Now the question remains, how much is Gus keeping in profit? How much is he taking home in the end? How equitable is the distribution? We know how much Walt and Jesse are making, but how much does everyone else make? In all honesty, I don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't think it's ever specifically pointed out in the show. Gus is not doing the majority of the work. He is excellent at organizing. he is doing the managerial tasks, his input is invaluable. He definitely deserves a fair slice of the pie, but he doesn't deserve the majority of the pie. If Gus is taking home the majority of the revenue and the distribution is not equitable, then in my opinion, everyone who works in this operation has a reason to be upset. They should unionize and maybe even consider going on strike. They should utilize collective bargaining and negotiate for a better deal. Better wages, profit sharing, etc. However, it's not Jesse and Walt who do all the work. Gus created a cover, the Chicken Brothers in the Laundry. Gus invested a lot of money in building a first-class laboratory. Gus hired a bunch of people, from Mike to dealers. Gus manages distribution and pays the whole crowd of workers. And it's Gus who risks the whole business if the police find him. So in fact, they don't do most of the work. When we account for all the other people who do the work both on the ground and behind the scenes, and we factor in maintenance costs, the fact is that Gus still takes a large part of the pie that he earns solely by it being his property. But that piece was still made by the labor of the people he employs. As another person already said, the role of an organizer can also be simply another working position. And talking about risk, this is pretty much the only point in your favor, but it only works because Gus is doing illegal work. If a capitalist engages in legal business, their only risk is that they may become like their employees, just another worker. It goes even more when you get out of the domain of mom and pop shops and start talking about huge multinationals, conglomerates, large banks, etc. They don't even have to worry about that because they're the ruling class, and they have a whole state apparatus ready to save them if they so much as stumble. I love Half-Life. Great game. Now, what I'm about to say is completely based on my own assumptions. I don't know what percentage of the revenue each worker is getting, but to me, it looks like it's an equitable distribution. In my opinion, and this is from what I feel watching the show, because again, they never show us exactly what everyone is getting paid. I'm pretty sure Gus also agrees that his role is just another job. He deserves an equal slice of the pie, just like all the other workers involved in his operation, even as head organizer. Gus also believes that each worker deserves a fair slice of the pie, him included. That's what I'm saying based on my opinion. I'm just basing it based off of looking at his house. When you look at Gus's house, and you could look at how Gus is living, and you compare it to his employees, I think it's fair to assume that everybody involved is taking home a similar amount of money. You know, like his house isn't that much bigger than Nacho's house, than Mike's house. They all seem like they're taking home a lot of money. It seems like pretty equitable distribution of revenue. If I had to assume, I think Gus is probably also taking home a couple million, just like Walt and Jesse. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that's the point. This fact automatically makes working for Gus look like that much of a better deal than a lot of the opportunities that were offered to Walt, or Jesse for that matter, throughout their lives. It looks like a better opportunity than what most people are offered throughout their lives. I mean, ask the average person if they would rather keep working their current job, or if they would rather work for Gus and get paid $1.5 million a week to make meth. If Gus really wanted to, he could run a business the normal way. He could pay his employees as little as he could realistically get away with and keep as much of the surplus as he possibly could. But then, he would be just like every other boss that Walt and Jesse ever worked for. And I think that's the point the show is trying to make about capitalism. That capitalism compels people to commit crimes. Because when you commit crimes, you are compensated more fairly for your work. You get paid way more for your work. I mean, it's not rocket science. You commit crimes, you get paid more. Simple math. I mean, how else is Gus going to get someone to cook meth for him? It's illegal, for crying out loud. He has to pay them fairly or else they won't do it. You can't say the same thing about most other jobs because most people have to work in order to survive. And you know what? I think that's the whole reason Jesse is so pissed off in this scene. Jesse figured, hey, I'm a criminal, yo. I'm risking my freedom to make $96 million worth of meth for you every week. And you're only letting me keep $1.5 million? You're only letting me keep it, me and my old friend? Keep $3 million between the two of us? You know what, like, fuck that, yo. You better fucking give me a raise, yo. It isn't until later on in the show that he realizes just how many other workers are involved that are essential to making sure the operation runs smoothly. Without them, they can't make $96 million a week in the first place. So, yeah, they deserve a fair share of that $96 million. And I think, based on what I can tell, that they are getting a fair cut. They appear to be. Truly, I think that's a big reason Jesse comes to respect Gus in the end. He may be a drug-dealing, murdering psychopath, but he's the best damn boss you'll ever have. He has to be. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Gus was running a socialist business the entire time. Gus was the good guy. That's why Walt killed him, because he's the bad guy. Duh! That's why Walt had to lie to Jesse in order to get him to hate Gus. He had to tell him that he poisoned a child. He literally did a false flag operation. He poisoned a child and told Jesse that Gus did it. Shit blows my mind every time. The second that Walt takes over Gus's business, what's the first thing he tries to do? He tries to underpay his employees.
And so, transportation is worth 20%?
They're taking a risk.
He doesn't agree to pay them fairly until Mike steps in and reminds him that he has to, or else there will be consequences.
This is an illegal operation, Walter. Those guys are risking their freedom. You have to give them a fair cut. If you don't, they could kill you and get away with it. Because remember, we're criminals. They're criminals. This is a criminal operation. If they're crazy enough to work for you, then they're crazy enough to kill you for not paying them fairly. You have to pay them fairly, Walter. If you don't, they'll kill you. It's common fucking sense.
And this, right here, is exactly why becoming a criminal, a violent criminal, is one of the only ways for a working class person living under capitalism to get paid fairly for their work. It's the whole reason Walter became a criminal in the first place. It's the reason Mike became a criminal. Gus, Saul, Jesse, the Breaking Bad extended universe is rife with examples of this. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's the whole point. So, how do we fix this? Well, I do think that Jesse is on the right track. A lot of workers would probably benefit from calculating their surplus value. How much profit they generated for the people who own the companies they work for. Jesse isn't doing it correctly here. But the basic idea is when you go to work, the work you're doing is worth a certain amount of money. The business owner is typically going to pay you less than what your work is worth. So that way they can make a profit off of your work. With this exchange, you are essentially spending a percentage of your time working for free. This is why it is in the workers' best interest to unionize, organize, negotiate for better wages, benefits, profit sharing, etc. Unions can go on strike, and when workers withhold their labor, business owners can't make any money, which forces them to realize the value of their workers and make concessions. That's how you negotiate for a better deal. As a commenter pointed out, consider the ratio in salaries between top-tier CEOs and their average employee. In Britain, it is 24-1. France, 15-1. Sweden, 13-1. And in the United States, where 83% of the population believes that Jesus literally rose from the dead, it is 475-1. Many a camel, it would seem, expects to squeeze easily through the eye of the needle. God damn. 475-1. How did it get so bad? Why don't America's workers unionize and go on strike? Well, because if they did, they would lose their health care. Britain, France, and Sweden each have a universal healthcare system. America does not. In America, your healthcare coverage is tied to your job. This means if you do anything that threatens your employment, like joining a union, starting a union, or even just asking your boss for a raise, you are risking your life. You're risking your employment, therefore you're risking your healthcare plan, therefore you are risking your life. This is why the wealth gap in America is so massive. It's also the reason Walter started making meth in the first place. He needed money for his cancer treatment. Remember? I'm the millionth person to say this, but every horrible thing that happened in Breaking Bad could have been avoided if America had a universal healthcare system. The wealth gap would be smaller and the crime rate would be lower. We need to find a way to tax America's billionaires, to tax the world's billionaires, to redistribute the surplus value generated by the working class to fund programs that are beneficial for humanity. Let's start with universal healthcare. Every human being in the world should have free access to healthcare. Every human being should also have access to a quality education. Everyone should have free access to everything they need to live a dignified life. Basically, what I'm trying to say is we need Finland-style socialism, Sweden-style socialism. Some people call it social democracy. Norway, Britain, France, Sweden-style socialism. We need this style of socialism, but implemented on a global scale. We need to make Zoran Mamdani president of the UN or some shit. Everyone, and I mean everyone, should have free healthcare, free housing, a free education, free food, universal basic nutrition, clean water, etc. Walter Jr. should have his college paid for. Walter White should have his healthcare paid for. Jesse should have access to gainful employment. I think we need a global wealth tax. A wealth cap. No one in the world should have a net worth over $1 billion. We're taxing that shit. All that surplus. No company should have a net worth over $1 billion either. That's a recipe for monopoly. I believe putting a cap on net worth in the form of a wealth tax will have a positive impact on the economy and be incredibly beneficial for the working class. It would break up existing monopolies and prevent new ones from forming, incentivizing small businesses. And it would generate a ton of revenue that we can use to fund social welfare programs, a global universal healthcare system, free education for everyone, including college, trade schools, vocational schools. It should be free to learn anything. A global Green New Deal to help humanity reach net negative CO2 and avert the crisis of climate change. A global housing assistance program to end homelessness, like they did in Finland. A global food stamp system to reduce waste of unsold food and end world hunger. End food insecurity. A global high-speed train, because it would be really cool. I believe something radical. I believe everything you need to live, everything you need to survive, everything you need to live a dignified life should be free. I don't think working should be a requirement to live, to survive. If that makes me sound lazy, then fine. I think working should be optional. There, I said it. When you go to work, you are giving something away in exchange for something. You are selling your labor. And if you have to give something away in order to live, then you are more likely to give it away for less than what it's worth. This is why the wealth gap is so high in America. I believe this needs to change, because massive amounts of wealth inequality are really bad for society. I believe that we need to do something to reduce wealth inequality, and this is what I came up with. A wealth cap that we use to fund social programs that make everything you need to live a dignified life free for everyone in the world. This is my style of socialism. Once everything you need to live is free and accessible to everyone in the world, then the working class will own the means of production. You and your coworkers will be able to organize, to unionize, to withhold your labor and use it as leverage, to negotiate with corporate for better wages, benefits, profit sharing, etc. They need your labor. And once giving it away is your choice, you finally have, how do I put it? You have a say. You have control over your life, your work. You have dignity. You have the means of production. I believe this will seriously help reduce wealth inequality all over the world. And it would seriously improve the lives of everyone all over the world. So basically, in conclusion, Walt and Jesse should have gotten involved in politics. I mean, look at every character in Breaking Bad for a minute. Do you think these people are involved in politics at all? Do you think they even vote? Hell no. None of these people have ever voted. They've never gone to a protest. They've never organized their workplaces. They've never even considered politics as What Albuquerque needs is a new mayor. I'm saying it, y'all. Look at what Zoran has done for New York City. Look at what Zoran Mamdani has done for New York City, for NYC. Now just imagine what he could have done for Walt and Jesse. I don't know, man. I think that's the end of the video. I can't think of anything else to say. Join the Democratic Socialists of America. And have a good day.